Good evening and welcome to the historic Smith Hall Theater here on the campus of Randolph College. To our honorees, college alumni and alumni, and friends of the college, we are truly thankful to have you with us for the first ever live-streamed virtual Alumni Achievement Award ceremony. Thank you for tuning in to help us celebrate the accomplishments of these four magnificent women. I know these women: Louisa Branscomb, class of 1971, Katy Colonna Worrilow, class of 1980, Elizabeth Owen from the class of 1991, and Jenny Sullivan Hubbard from the class of 1995. They are the true reason for your participation tonight. My name is Phoebe Williamson Westcott. I'm a proud Even from the class of 1978, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Alumni Relations here at the college. I will be serving as your host for tonight's event, and our mission and my charge for tonight is to share with you the journey the 2021 Alumni Achievement Award recipients have each experienced since graduating from the college. You will hear their stories and learn what brought them to this stage tonight as champions of their communities, their colleagues, classmates, and loved ones. Randolph College is very honored to recognize these women. In doing so, we hope you will renew the recognition and appreciation of the outstanding education you received from our alma mater, and help us continue the legacy of excellence for today's students by sharing these women's stories with young people in your community and your family. These women are superior examples of the college's motto, Vita Abundantior, living a life more abundant. I would like to recognize our generous sponsor, Spider Management, for helping to make this celebration possible. Spider Management is the college's investment partner and provides a unique perspective for our endowment to achieve long-term success. Now, just a few details about what we have in store for you tonight. We will hear from Randolph College President Bradley W. Bateman. Then we will celebrate tonight's four Alumni Achievement Award recipients. And following the close of the event, we will offer class Raise a Glass get-togethers for the classes of 1970, 1971, 1980, 1991, and 1995. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome President Bradley W. Bateman to begin this evening's celebration. President Bateman became the 10th president of Randolph College on July 1st, 2013. A passionate advocate for the liberal arts, President Bateman previously served as the provost and executive vice president at Denison University and an associate dean and the Gertrude B. Austin Chair of Economics for Grinnell College. He earned his BA in economics from Alma College and both his MA and PhD from the University of Kentucky in economics. Please join me in welcoming President Bateman. Brad?
Good evening. I'm so pleased to be here to recognize our distinguished graduates this evening. Although our event this year is virtual, that does not take away from the importance of celebrating them. As you know, the college has played a significant role in the lives of thousands of students since its founding in 1893 as Randolph-Macon Women's College. The foundation that is provided here behind the red brick wall prepares our students to enter the world ready, not just to face the challenges that life throws at them, but to make a real difference in the world. The alumni we are recognizing tonight are true examples of women who are living a life more abundant. The Alumni Achievement Award is the highest award our alumni can receive from the college. Since 1981, the college has presented this award to alumni who personify the values of a liberal arts education and have brought distinction to themselves and to the college. Nominations for the award come from alumni and alumni, and the selection committee is comprised of faculty, staff, and alumni. Today's Alumni Achievement Award recipients join an impressive group of women: judges, senators, pilots, medical professionals, educators, ministers, TV journalists, environmentalists, civil and human rights advocates. There are many examples in this group of leadership, innovation and entrepreneurship, intellect, grace, and courage in the face of challenges. Each of our Alumni Achievement Award recipients has personified the value of a liberal arts education, and they have brought honor upon themselves and the college through their outstanding accomplishments. I am proud to present this award to each of our 2021 Alumni Achievement Award recipients. Louisa, Branscomb, class of 1971. Katy, Colonna, Worrilow, class of 1980. Elizabeth Owen, class of 1991. Jenny Sullivan Hubbard, class of 1995. Join me now as we take a look at the life of these amazing women. Their fulfilling lives beyond the red brick wall include family, education, and career in community service. Our recipients tonight exemplify the true power of a liberal arts education.
Louisa Branscomb is a member of the class of 1971. She is a multiple legacy with more than 18 family members who attended Randolph-Macon Women's College. Her grandmothers, Helen Hardy Moreland and Margaret Vaughn Branscomb, were classmates and best friends in the class of 1917. Louisa shares why she chose to attend Randolph-Macon Women's College.
I did know about Randolph-Macon growing up because of my grandmothers and my mother and my aunts all attended there. There was a certain freedom within the walls. Well, a very big freedom within the walls that made you feel exhilarated. I think in the small classes and the small groups of people where we were encouraged to express ourselves was absolutely fundamental and critical for me because I grew up kind of being a good girl for the most part in a southern town, Birmingham.
Louisa graduated cum laude with a biology major and English minor. She was a member of Greyfell, the Honorary Writing Society, and a Gamma. She spent her junior year abroad in Reading, England. Louisa is a trailblazer and pioneer, both in her work with psychology and in her musical career. She shares where those ambitions began.
I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, maybe 5, and I was playing on the rug in Nashville at my grandparents' house. And that was my favorite song, Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. And I sang it all the time, but I was still learning to talk. And I said, King of the Wild Frontier. And grandmother was in the kitchen. And I said, Grandmother. And she came out and I said, what is a frontier? And she said, well, it's like you're on this rug. You're playing on this rug. And you see, Louisa, when you get to the edge of the rug, everything beyond that is the frontier. The edge of the rug is the frontier, and everything beyond that is the unknown. And I thought that was just magical. But then I said, well, but Grandmother, why do you have fun and tears together? And then she explained the word. But I always said frontier because, and I thought that was the word, and I did not know why you have fun and tears together. I now know why you have fun and tears together, and I now know that that's probably the more accurate version of the song my 5-year-old edit, because you don't get to have fun without tears. If the kind of fun you're having is meaningful, is the life more abundant, vita abundantior.
Louisa has shared, I don't think I tried to be a pioneer. Rather, my choices led me to do things not typically done by women in those decades. It is important to note that Louisa followed 2 career paths or passions. First was in psychology, and the second in music.
At Bowman Gray School of Medicine, I was in those 2 worlds of art and science. That was my first master's. I had a career dilemma. I didn't know how to join art and science. And I had decided that I wanted to I also, of course, loved being out in nature. And I went to my dad and I said, I think I'd like to be in forestry and go to the University of Syracuse. And he said, oh no, women can't be out in the woods alone. You don't want to do that. Well, I went away for about a year and came back and said, I think I want to be a veterinarian. And he said, oh no, you don't want to be a veterinarian and try to pull cows out, of the mom. And then I went to my dad and said, Dad, I want to be a psychologist. He said, now, why would you be a psychologist? Why would you be a witch doctor when you could be a regular doctor? And meanwhile, I had learned to play banjo and started playing around Winston-Salem with my friend Sally at Wingate and others, and then started my band Boot Hill. And I wanted to go on the road with my band Boot Hill playing banjo. So I said, Dad, I'm just going to take a time out. I'm just going to temporarily play the banjo. And I thought this would be the worst thing of all. But he went, wonderful. Can I come on stage and play harmonica with you? So this started my music. And I never have stopped. So I have always had the music going on one side and the science going on the other side.
Louisa was among the first women to play banjo in a touring band and front the band and write a substantial amount of the band's material. She traveled full-time for the rest of her 20s. She simultaneously continued her education at Wake Forest University, where she received her Master's of Science Communication in 1974. She then went on to complete her Master's in Counseling, also at Wake Forest University, in 1979. She moved to Georgia to enroll in Georgia State University's PhD program in clinical psychology, where she received her degree in 1988. Louisa shares a story from this time in her early career at Bowman Gray School of Medicine.
I was working and I got promoted to a level that was parallel to my immediate boss, by our boss. And I was told to go to a different office. And that boss, my immediate boss, put all of my books and personal papers on a cart that you roll. And he came up into my office, wheeled it into the room and dumped everything all over the room and said, you don't have to get me coffee anymore, but you got to pick these books up.
Louisa became the youngest faculty member at Bowman Gray at 23 and was promoted to the Dean's Office of Education. At the same time in Winston-Salem, she played the banjo and bluegrass music.
To be in a traveling bluegrass band, that was unusual. So what if I hadn't had a school like Randolph-Macon, I don't know if I could have done things that were the fun tier, keyword tier, and fun. I would have needed that, a protected environment. It can't just be a protected environment. It has to be one where you're pushed and encouraged to say something that hasn't been said.
Louisa obtained a PhD in psychology, where she wrote seminal articles in the connection between childhood trauma and combat PTSD, and also some original research in women's psychology.
The Vietnam era made me feel like I needed to somehow give back to my generation of men. And so I had an interest in PTSD from combat. But I also had an interest in how people transform hardship of all kinds. So of course, this included women. So in Atlanta, I got a number of recognitions for my work in women's psychology.
Louisa worked as a psychologist for the next 20 or 30 years. Her interest focused on how people transform their experience from tragedy or trauma to become a part of the larger community. Louisa is the recipient of numerous awards in both psychology and music. We asked her which recognitions were the most meaningful to her.
A mother calls me from Mississippi who I've never met, and in a little squeaky voice says, my son was Alan. And we kicked him out of the family because he was gay. And you knew Alan, and you wrote a song called For Every Day That You Die Young that talked about all Alan taught people when he was dying of AIDS. And Alan, when we went to his house for the funeral, there was a stack of cassettes, one for every member of the family. who had not let him be a part of the family. And we listened to that song and we felt like we knew him, and we all felt great remorse. And I'm calling you to thank you for giving me back my son.
Louisa shares another meaningful recognition of her work.
About 3 weeks ago, I got a list of songs, most influential songs of the first 75 years of bluegrass music. It was compiled by the most prestigious radio station, XM Radio, and it was talking about bluegrass music. And Steel Rails, my song, was number 13. And the other songs on that list of 75 songs, in the first 65, there were only 3 women songwriters.
Louisa received the International Bluegrass Music Association Distinguished Achievement Award in 2017 for making a significant difference in exposing more people to the genre. She has accomplished this through her songwriting and her nonprofit, Screen Door Songwriting Alliance. She shares.
We use songwriting as a transforming medium. That's our guiding principle. So we might support professional songwriters through events, but we also support fledgling or growing songwriters through events. But we also support, it's the idea that when you write a song, your life has changed.
Having had songwriter success with John Denver and Alison Krauss and her own band Boot Hill before she was 40, she turned to volunteering for the last 30 years as a mentor and advocate for women in music and songwriters. She has mentored more than 1,000 songwriters, created venues for more than 200 songwriters to perform, and aided school and foster children in using songwriting to express their experience and ideas about the world. Publishing On Songwriting and the Soul is her next adventure. Her work unites creativity and transcendence in life, while she continues to work to help high-needs populations and injured communities to heal and transform with songwriting and its lessons as a creative intervention. The primary focus tonight was to share Louisa's parallel path with her career in psychology and music and how she has worked to combine the two in her nonprofit volunteer work today. She is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter and musician in addition to being an accomplished and recognized psychologist. She closes her 50th reunion biographical update by writing, "I didn't choose to be a pioneer type. It wasn't always easy. I was just destined by the need to follow things I love, and thank goodness for Randolph-Macon, or I wouldn't have had a clue how to stand up to the challenges, naysayers, status quo, male patriarchy, or celebrate the freedom of a life more abundant." She shares her statement of gratitude for the Alumni Achievement Award.
It makes me feel like I've come full circle from those years at Randolph-Macon to have this extraordinary, oddly extraordinary, surprising award from my peers. Because I don't know if there's any greater recognition than I'd rather have, because you see, they're recognizing me as a person. It's not for some sort of competitive achievement. It's, as I take it, it has to do with taking a place among people who I'm quite sure I don't measure up to, but it's a great honor for me. But because it's coming full circle back to the very things that I think gave me the wings to fly.
Katy Colonna Worrilow is a member of the class of 1980. She resides in Fogelsville, an hour outside of Philadelphia, and is married to Charles Cobb Worrilow, an emergency medicine physician, and is the mother of twin sons, William Mills and Charles Cobb Jr. She is an entrepreneur and expert in the area of in vitro fertilization, IVF. She directed several IVF and andrology laboratories for more than 20 years, and in 2010 formed Life Air Systems. She filed 3 patents through her company on a specialized air filtration system to be used in IVF laboratories and has now received 28 patents. We asked Katy why she decided on Randolph-Macon Women's College.
I knew of Randolph-Macon, obviously, because my mother was class of 1955, and I'd met many of her friends over the years. But honestly, she insisted up until the day of decision that she said, Randolph-Macon, an all-women's college, And Randolph-Macon was great for her, but it may not be for me. And she pushed me hard to make my own decision. So after applying to all, really the decision maker for me was I chose to spend the weekend at several to get a better sense of the community and the students and life on campus. And it was this revisit weekend that made the decision. Like no other campus visited, I loved the students I met, their life, their role and broad opportunity with leadership positions, their autonomy with the professors. For me, the rigorous math and science curriculum, that was very important. And the genuine support, that was very obvious. The genuine support and encouragement given by the students and professors to one another. It really created a pervasive community. I love the traditions that they showed me and just the genuine happiness of the students, their growth as individuals and as a community. And so that's really what, after that weekend, it was a pretty easy decision. And I don't regret that decision, not for a second, going forward.
Katy made the most of her years on campus. She served as dorm president, a member of the Skeller Board, and senior class president. She also found time for fun with the Glee Club and the ADAS.
As far as my favorite memory, there are many, but I'd say the lively, fierce, and spirited fun rivalry between the odds and evens. Again, just ongoing competition, just so much fun all 4 years. And we always felt badly for the odds, but we were open to helping in any way possible. And certainly the class of '80 is happy to serve as role models. But I'd say the odd even tradition, it's hard to pick one single memory, but that lively competition is definitely at the top.
The countless hours that Katy spent in the Martin Science Building paid off. She graduated with a biology major and a mathematics minor. She was fortunate to have many role models who helped guide her through the curriculum.
There were many professors and classes that played a role, including those that were not in my major. Dr. Lipscomb's amazing teachings in English, Dr. Dalgard's absolute and infectious love of chemistry, Dr. Parham's detailed approach to all things biology, Dr. Humphrey's rigorous approach to mathematics, but their teachings and love for their area of expertise were infectious. They were absolutely infectious to me and really provided a very, very solid foundation throughout my career.
Katy received her PhD from the University of Virginia School of Medicine in Anatomy and Cell Physiology. She completed her postdoctoral fellowship in reproductive physiology and infertility at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. She shares.
And I felt extremely well prepared for my doctoral classes at the University of Virginia School of Medicine and then going on to Penn. My doctorate was split between the School of Biomedical Engineering and School of Medicine, a focus really on the application of engineering solutions to solve problems in human physiology. And my doctoral degree was in anatomy and cell physiology. It was this doctoral research that began my absolute love and fascination with the study of human reproduction, which I continued in my postdoctoral fellowship in reproductive biology and infertility at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. And it was really the combination of the curriculum at Randolph-Macon, Virginia, and Penn that led me to a career in human in vitro fertilization, or IVF, which really in my mind was almost the perfect tricycle. It captured, the three wheels of what I love, science and clinical studies, teaching, and patient care. So it was, I really felt blessed to have been a part of IVF and still do to this day.
For most of her career, she was a clinical provider of IVF and directed the IVF and andrology laboratories for several leading programs in Pennsylvania. The Life Air system currently is being used to protect the human embryo in IVF laboratories throughout the world, to protect patients in operating rooms, ICUs, and NICUs, and other critical care areas, as well as the protection of the elderly in senior living facilities. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, the Life Air team created a series of new products, including a portable system to sterilize N95 masks for safe reuse. Life Air was engaged by the White House COVID Task Force and was recently recognized by Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf for the company's ability to pivot and use their technology to fight the pandemic. For Katy, it is personal. Her husband is an ER physician who has been on the front lines fighting the pandemic.
I mean, this pandemic has impacted all of us. And we started receiving inquiries, I guess a year ago, February, when this was just starting, because the air purification system that we designed, the Life Air system, obviously we designed it to protect the human embryo. But because we were trying to protect, one of the most sensitive cells, we set the design bar very, very high for the technologies because of its ability to kill anthrax. It provides an extraordinary kill of COVID-19, as well as other viruses and infectious bacteria. So as COVID was developing, we started receiving calls from non-IVF, non-healthcare providers, commercial office spaces, dental practices, airports, just a very wide array, long-term care facilities. And so as a team and as a company, I mean, we realized the technology that we already had, could provide help. Our goal has always been patient care and wellness, long before the pandemic. So we're just honored that our technology can play a role in helping those outside of the healthcare space with their protection.
Katy has authored more than 60 peer-reviewed scientific papers and chapters and has been invited to speak both nationally and internationally. She has been a recipient of the Star Award from the American Society for Reproductive Medicine in 2011 to 2015 and was recently honored with the Entrepreneur of the Year award. She has also enjoyed participating as an invited TED Talk speaker. We asked her what she felt were her greatest career and life accomplishments.
Greatest career life accomplishment, I'd probably flip it and put life accomplishment. I mean, just our sons, Charles and William, and who they are, and the lives they will touch in a very positive and meaningful way. And secondly, thinking career, helping individuals and couples fulfill their dreams of having a child, a family. It was an absolute honor to be a part of this process. And finally, the design of a very purposed technology that will help in the ongoing protection of these treasured lives.
Katy expresses her gratitude for receiving the Alumni Achievement Award.
It is with the deepest gratitude that I thank President Bateman, those on the Alumni Achievement Committee, the Board of Trustees, and my dear classmates for the honor and privilege to be considered for this award from our beloved college. To be honored with Elizabeth, Jennifer, and Louisa is most humbling. This award may list my name, but in truth, it belongs to those who have taught, raised, influenced, and shepherded me. It truly belongs to my parents, my fearless and spirited mother, sadly and odd, class of 55, my parents who were role models throughout my life, who showed my brother and me integrity, the depth of core values, drive, determination and learning through failure, the importance of giving back, work ethic, kindness to others, and lots of laughter. It belongs to my teachers, my college and doctoral professors and mentors, whose contagious love of science resides in me to this day. It belongs to my dear classmates, class of 1980. This award could have been given to so many of you who have accomplished extraordinary feats since leaving our red brick walls. So many of you touching the lives of and helping others in amazing ways. To my classmates and our sister classes, you have touched my heart forever. You also taught me how to dance. Before we hit the oh so straight and smooth Route 501 and 29 for our infamous road trips, but so many special memories, each of which has shaped us into the person we are today. Our beloved traditions, odd even rivalries, the Skeller, late night studying, the pranks. So this is virtual, so I won't be corrected on this. Please understand I was typically the victim of these pranks. Just our sister classes singing the song Where the River Runs, whether we were in and out of tune, but typically with tears, our pumpkin parade, college rings our junior year, our sister classes passing down their caps and gowns, how we watched out for one another, how we grew together, what we learned from one another and from behind the red brick walls, giving us the wings to fly and to make a difference. This award belongs to my childhood and dearest friends. Your friendship, your influence, and our many adventures imprinted on my heart forever. It belongs to my dear IVF colleagues and those making up the village behind our company vision, our team, board, advisors, scientific partners, and most importantly, the patients and clinical providers that we serve. Lastly, most importantly, this belongs to my family, my husband, Cobb, my most stalwart supporter and knight. Your faith in me being the steadfast encouragement behind our continued push and work. Our sons, Wayne and Charles, who today serve as role models to me. Their love, encouragement, integrity, kindness, drive, and example. You, your father, and our family bring joy to my soul. I woke this morning, as I do many, with devout thanksgiving for each of you mentioned and many others. You have left teachings, lessons, love, and your footprints on my heart. And for that, I will never be the same. Because of you, I am now me. Thank you.
In the nomination letter from her classmates, they wrote, Elizabeth's persistent, quiet behind-the-scenes role as an editor has not only advanced the truth in documenting history, but has also influenced and inspired countless other journalists. Her work highlights the importance of honest, unbiased journalism in the world we live in today. Elizabeth has been a fierce advocate for accountability, not just from public officials, but also from the journalists themselves. Elizabeth is an incredibly talented and dedicated editor, and in a region known for its fast and loose relationship with the truth that can sometimes be downright dangerous for journalists, she has demanded that facts be triple-checked and assumptions be questioned. Elizabeth Llewellyn Owen is a member of the class of 1991 and is from Charleston, West Virginia. We asked her why she chose Randolph-Macon Women's College.
I just remember the sense of energy that I got there, and positive energy. That it was a small place, but I somehow picked up on the sense that people were being encouraged to pursue what they wanted to do, whatever their dreams were. So it really seemed like a way to kind of engage your intellect, like whatever you're interested in, you will get the attention to dig in as deep as you can, or as you'd like.
Elizabeth graduated summa cum laude with an international relations major and French minor. Not only was she the class valedictorian, but she graduated with departmental honors as a member of Phi Beta Kappa. Elizabeth shares why she became interested in international relations and study abroad.
I think a lot of it just had to do with, my mother and father's photos, my grandparents' slideshows from the trips they had taken to Europe, and I just thought, wow, this really doesn't look like West Virginia, and I'm kind of curious about these places. So yeah, I guess I still have those images at the back of my mind.
Elizabeth enjoyed participating in college traditions and was an active member of the community, especially as one of the senior class's representatives to the Judiciary Council. Elizabeth spent her junior year at l'Institut d'études politiques de Paris, where she completed coursework in French and interned at La Croix, a Paris daily newspaper. While abroad, Elizabeth and her classmates found time to enjoy traveling through France and Italy, among other European countries. We asked Elizabeth how her junior year abroad and the internship helped determine her career path.
I guess in many ways what kind of kickstarted my interest in working abroad and living abroad. I mean, both of my parents had, before I was born, had lived and worked in France. So I'd grown up always hearing a lot about what it was like to be there. But experiencing it firsthand was, it's just like you've fallen into a different world. And you realize how many different options and ways there are to see things and to experience life. So I really strongly valued that. Aside from the linguistic benefits, it definitely whetted my appetite, I guess I could say, for journalism.
Elizabeth returned to RMWC for her senior year. She enjoyed the traditions focused around that year and her commencement. Following graduation in 1991 from RMWC, she completed her master's degree in international relations at Tufts University's Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in 1993 and launched her career in journalism. In graduate school, she specialized in international business, international communications, and Russian area studies. Elizabeth immediately moved to Moscow and launched her career in journalism. There, she wrote first for the Moscow Tribune, then the Moscow Times. She shares.
I got the Russia bug actually while I was in France, because at the end of the time there, I went on a tour to what was then the Soviet Union, when it was in the midst of perestroika and it was falling apart and everything. So it was a time of great change, and the changes that were afoot kind of grabbed my imagination. So while I was in graduate school, I went back and spent a summer in St. Petersburg to concentrate on Russian. And then once I finished graduate school, I wanted to go back there and work. And fortunately, that was at a time when, the doors were wide open. I signed on with a program that, again, like the French program, focused on putting Americans to work in Russian companies, essentially as an internship. And from that, I just kind of leapfrogged into an English language publication, and then from there to two different newspapers, the Moscow Tribune and the Moscow Times. And it's kind of hard to briefly describe that time. It was totally chaotic, but it was totally fascinating because you could tell people were really starting to rethink all of these notions they had about what's important in a society, or how they should be ruled, or what their own rights are. That was all up in a mixer. And you could argue some of the outcome was perhaps not so great, but at the same time, it was just the creative energy, I think, that kept us all there.
In 1997, Elizabeth returned to the United States to work in her home country as a journalist and began an interesting career path.
And this was in the early days of the internet era. So again, I was just fortunate with the timing, because they were interested in people who had reporting experience. and who wanted to try out this, crazy new medium. And so that became my next bug.
Elizabeth truly was a pioneer in the online world of the internet. She returned to New York in 1997 and worked as a producer and writer for Time Magazine Online. She built in-depth online special reports for mega projects such as Person of the Century, Time 100, and Visions of the 21st Century. She developed and programmed web-only features such as audio-video clips, interactive polls, quizzes, and games, and produced and booked regular live chats on Yahoo and AOL with guests ranging from the Reverend Billy Graham to Miss America. As a senior producer with 13 WNET, she created award-winning original content companion websites for Public Broadcasting System's national broadcasts. She was the lead content developer and project manager for high-profile super sites with an international focus. Her work was recognized with a 2000 Columbia University School of Journalism Online News Association's Best Service Journalism Site Award and a 2003 EPI Award for Best Internet News Feature. Although Elizabeth at a young age had achieved great things, it is since moving to Tbilisi, Georgia in 2004 that warrants this special recognition by the college. As the news editor for EurasiaNet, Elizabeth was instrumental in expanding EurasiaNet's coverage in all 3 countries in the South Caucasus, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. She dedicated a great deal of time and energy to publishing more in-depth reporting on conflict areas in disputed territories of Georgia and Azerbaijan. She oversaw daily news operations for 5 countries and 3 separatist regions for this nonprofit analytical news site on the former Soviet Union, named by editor and publisher as the best news site of its size in 2011. She managed and edited the work of up to 15 mostly non-native English-speaking freelancers. She proposed and produced the site's first in-depth digital projects on elections and social change throughout the Caucasus and Central Asia. Elizabeth tells us about her return to work overseas with EurasiaNet.
It was just a case of fortunate timing, I guess. I was freelancing for them as an editor, and I was allowed to go to Georgia after their Rose Revolution in 2003 to report on a few stories. And I realized I really missed working overseas, and I had never been in Georgia before this reporting trip. So I just proposed the idea that they needed an editor who was there on site to work with their freelance reporters and photographers, well, primarily the reporters. And fortunately, they agreed. They accepted the pitch. So I moved there and was there through the Mikhail Saakashvili's administration, through the war with Russia, and not just Georgia, but the larger Caucasus, Azerbaijan and Armenia. And then eventually they let me expand to Turkey and Moldova. And it was a wonderful time. It's hard to rank which was the best, but I certainly would have to put Georgia right up there at the top.
Elizabeth has worked tirelessly to educate the wider public about important issues in a part of the world unknown to most people. We asked why working in Georgia was one of her favorites.
Well, in part, I think because it's a place that's not particularly well known, and I think journalists always like to be working on something that not everybody else and their brothers are working on, or a part of the world even. And I was working with reporters who for the most part, English was not their native language, but they really had a drive to do independent reporting. And by independent, I mean not influenced by politics or somebody's agenda, which is still not the norm in that part of the world. And they just being able to, pick up from them stories that I wouldn't have been able to find likely as a foreigner. So it was a bit of a coaching role, and I really enjoyed it because you feel like you're part of the storytelling process as the editor. And on top of that, there's beautiful scenery, there's fantastic food, and of course there's Georgian dance, and a beautiful language.
As a freelance international news editor in Tbilisi, her persistent, quiet, behind-the-scenes role as an editor has not only advanced the truth and documented history, but has also influenced and inspired countless other journalists. Her work highlights the importance of honest, unbiased journalism in the world we live in today. Elizabeth intensively edited, restructured, and advised on online photo, video, and multimedia coverage from the Caucasus for Chaikana, a nonprofit startup that tells human interest stories about the region's minorities, rural populations, and separatist territories. She assigned, edited, and wrote blog posts about the quirky side of politics, diplomacy, trade, and social change for the Caucasus for EurasiaNet.org, one of the first news sites to specialize in non-Russia coverage of the former Soviet Union. She edited and reworked long-form analytical stories about Moscow's disinformation campaigns in Eastern Europe, Russia, and Ukraine for Codastory.com, a platform for single-issue contextual storytelling. At Current Time TV, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty in Prague, as a one-person editorial operation, she writes in-depth stories and edits videos on often simultaneous crises ranging from the COVID-19 pandemic to brutal protest crackdowns in Belarus and Russia and revolution in Kyrgyzstan. Elizabeth has received numerous awards in journalism. We asked her which are the most meaningful to her.
I mean, I appreciate all the awards I've received, but I would say that the ones that stand out the most in my memory are the 2007 award from editor and publisher for a website I produced for EurasiaNet called Kyrgyzstan Revolution Revisited. That was a look at the consequences of the tulip revolution in that country. And then also the 2005 award from the National Education Telecommunications Association, which is connected with the public broadcasting system, for a website we produced for PBS on a documentary series about the 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Elizabeth has embraced the power of a liberal arts education and continues to embody those tenets. She immersed herself in the Georgian community. She learned the incredibly difficult Georgian language and speaks it very well, in addition to Russian and French. She appreciated Georgian cooking, and then there is dance. Trained by 2 former Saakashvili soloists who run their own dance troupe and offer dance lessons, she learned the Saakashvili choreography. At the same time that she was dancing with this troupe, she was also training at the Academy for the Georgian National Ballet Saakashvili. Elizabeth performed with a Georgian traditional dance troupe. The art has given her a special insight into one of Georgia's most cherished cultural institutions. We asked how she came to be active with the Georgian dance group.
I just really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a music with a certain beat, and there's a certain style to it all. And so after a while, I transferred over to a class that was run by a professional dancer, a former member of the soloist from it's called the Georgian National Ballet Saakashvili, who are probably the best known Georgian dance performers. And this class was all in Georgian. So at first it was definitely a struggle that, your brain as well as your body was trying to learn something at the same time. But I just like it's all about telling a story, essentially. And maybe not, totally out of context from anything that I had experienced before. And so that, along with the camaraderie, it's just, I just loved it. I mean, it's definitely, I could probably say it's as valuable to me as the journalism experience. Also because it gave insight into the way Georgian culture actually works. Because I was essentially accepted as if I wore George, and it's just invigorating music. It's incredible energy. And I think the fact that it's a creative outlet. I think that was the primary attraction.
Upon receiving the Alumni Achievement Award, Elizabeth shares a statement of gratitude.
I'd like to thank President Bateman and the alumni office for their support during this period, and also very much to my classmates. I mean, this was a totally unexpected honor, and I definitely appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank the professors that I had at Randolph-Macon, because it's basically the entire complex at Randolph-Macon. There, it was a unique experience, and I'm just entirely grateful that I had the opportunity to learn in such a place for so long.
Jenny Sullivan Hubbard is a member of the class of 1995 and a mother of two, Frederick and Catherine, who died at Sandy Hook Elementary School in December 2012. In her nomination for this award, the nominator shares, "Perhaps the greatest gift that the college bequeathed upon us was a sense of ourselves, of which we likely had only a rudimentary awareness when we arrived. That sense provided us with a key ingredient for embracing what was to come." Jenny's grace-filled presence, leadership, compassion, engagement, and creativity in the days, months, and years since the death of their daughter Catherine in 2012 at Sandy Hook has epitomized the strength that comes from knowledge and sense of self. Through her beautifully written blog on the Catherine Violet Hubbard Foundation website, she has opened herself up so that we might see how one can navigate through the aftermath of such unimaginable tragedy. Let's hear from Jenny as she shares her time at Randolph-Macon Women's College.
When I think about my time at Randolph-Macon, I really and truly cherish the academic life. I really felt like, and I had no intention of going to a women's college, which is the irony of all of this. But I really and truly cherish those moments of small, intimate settings where we could have conversation and dialogue about what we were studying and the richness of the courses that we were introduced to.
Jenny had an opportunity to intern with Philip Morris in Richmond, Virginia. She shares some thoughts about the Philip Morris recruiters and that experience.
I'll never forget the recruiter. He came and he sat in, again, the admissions office. He interviewed for the internship. They were looking for women that had confidence, and they were able to speak clearly and think critically. And I got the internship, and I ended up working for Philip Morris for 9 years. My objective was to end up at the Whitney in New York, and Philip Morris is a big contributor to the Whitney. It never happened, but it's just, I think that the opportunities that small little campus presented to me, both coming into school and then leaving school, really bookended that season of my life and prepared me for all that was to come. I had a job with them upon graduation, which was really remarkable. It made my senior year on campus one of the best, one of the best. So I started immediately after I graduated. I started in Baltimore.
Jenny moved up the ranks with Philip Morris, a Fortune 100 company, for 9 years. She talks about how Randolph-Macon instilled confidence in her abilities.
Sessions with professors and faculty at Randolph-Macon built my confidence to be able to sit in front of business leaders in Philip Morris and have dialogues and conversations where I wasn't questioning what I was saying. I just was putting it out there. In a real, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but in a real vulnerable kind of way, like I want to learn. And I feel like Randolph-Macon instilled that in us as women, like the seeking and the quest for learning was not at all a stigma. It was a way to grow.
As Jenny moved up the corporate ladder, a move was imminent for the family.
So we shuffled off to Buffalo. And I think, life really slowed down in a really good and fruitful way, that I began to realize that the work that I love to do was not exclusive in my life.
Upon the birth of her oldest child, Freddie, she left the profession, choosing to stay at home.
I made a decision that it was time to stop. Like, you can't, I really felt like I couldn't do what I was doing with my work and my career and be present as a mom. And it was not really a hard decision. I felt like I had done what I needed to do in the career world, and now my focus needed to be placed on him and raising him up. And I think about that decision. It was really a crossroads. We packed it in. We went from having two really great salaries to one, and made the decision to move closer to family. And we moved to Connecticut. I stayed at home. Our life completely did a 180. We really didn't have much. It was one of these moments in my life where I look back and I'm grateful that I didn't have much, because if I did, I probably wouldn't have focused my time and attention on, Freddie. And then Catherine was born, shortly thereafter. They were just about 2 years apart. And so for the 6 years that I had Catherine, I was able to be steeped in her soul and her passions and my kids. And I think back, and while I'm very, very proud of the career that I built in corporate America, I'm most proud of the fact that I was able to spend time and put the energy into my kids, because the fruits of that are forever.
Jenny shares thoughts on another 180, losing her daughter, Catherine, at the Sandy Hook school shooting.
It's one of these things where I look at December 14th and having Catherine die in such a public and tragic way. And my heart breaks for the people that aren't necessarily surrounded by the goodness and kindness that we were. It's humbling. Like right now, every day I wake up and I think someone right now is saying goodbye to their baby, and they're not going to be afforded the opportunities, or may not be afforded the opportunities that I was afforded because of Catherine dying in the tragedy at Sandy Hook. And that breaks my heart, because it's a lonely and it's a dark place. And I know that the reason that I came through it was because I was surrounded by just sheer generosity and goodness. And my belief is that was God. That was God really just sort of grabbing me and pulling me in close and saying, people are good. Like, do not lose faith in humanity, because people are in their essence good. We were at a point in our lives where, it's the proverbial perfect life. 2 kids, a yellow lab, rocking chairs on the front porch. When Sandy Hook happened, we, like you said, another 180 of, what do you do now? I think the difference in the decisions that I made after Catherine died versus decisions that I made before she died were more of present decisions, of just taking the right next step, and versus thinking, the long game of my career, or my children, where will they go to school, and what are the things they should do to help raise them. The decisions that we made were very present, starting with her obituary. We wrote her obituary, and it's like, it's one of those questions, like, what is a 6-year-old's cause? In lieu of flowers. It's just like this, it's this odd sort of, expectation when you write an obituary. Well, in lieu of flowers, what are you going to do?
The family asked that donations go to the Animal Center of Newtown, knowing that it was exactly what Catherine would have wanted.
And they had said, we received $125,000 in honor of Catherine. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't realize then the impact of the Sandy Hook school shooting. I didn't realize that it was an international event, and donations in Catherine's memory were received from all over the world. And the notes that I received and the people that it taught me how to be a more compassionate person, because I had, months and years before watched these tragedies unfold on the TV. And I thought, how sad, and my heart would break, and I would pray for the families that were affected. But never would I have thought to sit down and write a note and say, I'm thinking of you, or my heart breaks with yours, or your baby was beautiful. And those were the things that really were, they touched me, and they touched my heart to know that I wasn't going through this alone.
A decision was made to build an animal sanctuary. The animal sanctuary was described as a place where children could look in the eyes of a deer, lamb, kitten, dog, and see their own innate beauty.
Well, here we are 9 years later, and we've done it. Our mission at the foundation was to honor Catherine's legacy, and how we do that is by honoring the human-animal bond. I have to remind myself a lot that this isn't Philip Morris. This is not a corporation. This is a combination of the experience that I had in the corporate world, and the learnings that I had in school, and the learnings that I have as a mom, and just putting them all together and have this beautiful unfolding of the sanctuary and where we are today.
Under Jenny's leadership, the Catherine Violet Hubbard Foundation received a state conveyance of 34 acres of pristine farmland for the sanctuary's use, raised more than $4 million, and garnered the attention and support of nationally recognized organizations, among which include the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine, and the Jane Goodall Institute.
My job when we first started the foundation was to come up with the logo, which if you see the logo, it's Catherine. it's her profile, and then there's animals around her. So some people see the animals, some people see Catherine. It's it was a beautiful gift that was given to us. So the values, when we came up with the mission, which is to honor the human-animal bond, enrich the lives of all beings by promoting compassion and acceptance. We believe at the foundation that no matter how hard things are, no matter how hard a land conveyance looks to be, and no matter how hard it looks to launch a program or get things off the ground or raise money for a building, we're determined to see it through. And so our core values are built around the core values that define Catherine.
While maintaining a voting position on the Catherine Violet Hubbard Board of Directors, Jenny provides oversight of day-to-day operations of the Catherine Violet Hubbard Animal Sanctuary, implementing its vision and strategic direction. The sanctuary has launched programs reaching more than 20,000 and has succeeded in keeping hundreds of animals in loving homes. The sanctuary has become a channel for which she has been able to share her story of hope and healing. Jenny did not let her grief debilitate her. Instead, she used it to motivate her to create something beautiful and lasting. Part of Jenny's journey towards healing began by journaling. Her writing led to the creation of a blog, which in vivid detail reveals a mother coping with her loss. Her ability to put her feelings on paper brings much comfort to both Jenny and her readers. Jenny's monthly blog reaches the 25,000 sanctuary followers and attracts more than 4,000 readers with each new post. Jenny has always enjoyed writing and has found the process to be cathartic. She became a regular contributor to the magazine Magnificat. Jenny began sharing her experiences publicly and has become a motivational speaker. She believes she is not a professional speaker, but has a story to share that can help others. This also is displayed in the writing of her recently released book, Finding Sanctuary.
I think that one of the things that spans both the sanctuary and my writing and now my speaking is just that acceptance of yourself, of self, and acceptance of those things around us, including our experiences. I think that what is most impactful on people that walk away after I've spoken is embracing whatever season they're in, whatever tragedy or whatever celebration they're in the midst of really holding tight to that, because there is something that is to be learned from both. I think that there's a beautiful learning in tragedy and in the tragic, but I also think that there's a beautiful learning in the joy and the celebration of accomplishment.
Jenny's work has been recognized with several awards, including Best Essay in Prayer and Spirituality by the Catholic Press Association, Westfair Communications Family-Owned Business Award, the Helen B. Woodward Animal Champions Tribute Award, and her new book, Finding Sanctuary, is recognized by Publishers Weekly as a top 10 spring new release. Going full circle, Jenny was asked by Phoebe Westcott, alum director, to remember the quote she put in the college yearbook, The Helianthus.
In your senior year, Healy, you know, as each senior did, you had the opportunity to leave a thought or whatever it spoke to you.
Okay.
Are you ready for yours?
I am.
I gained strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which I must stop and look fear in the face. We must do the things we think we cannot do.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't
Wow.
that absolutely remarkable? I mean,
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
What do you think you meant? Or what do you think was going through that process? And how, what does it mean to you now?
I think I was probably convincing myself that, as scared as I was at the time to go out into the world, like there was no more school. You do that for 20 years of your life. Wow. Now what?
And beyond the red brick wall.
Beyond the red brick wall. That was just, I had beautiful friendships. And I didn't have a lot of friends at school, but the group of girls that my little pack, they were safe, and they taught vulnerability and authenticity in friendship and love, beyond anything I could have ever seen in a friendship. Bonds that, a sisterhood of a lifetime. Just through a lot of the traditions and the things that we looked forward to. It was a new beginning. And I think I was probably telling to my, senior year self, like, stare him down. I hear that now, and I think so much of Catherine and so much of what she's taught me. I am honored and just humbled because, the gift that Randolph Macon gave me in making and forming the woman that I am today is remarkable. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it has been so rewarding to hear what our honorees have done within their careers and communities. You each make us very proud.
I now would invite everyone to raise a glass in honor of our Alumni Achievement recipients. Louisa, Katy, Elizabeth, Jenny, here is to you and your Vida Abundantior. Okay, this concludes our celebration. We now invite everyone to sing the college song with us. And after that, immediately following that, I'm going to remind one more time the classes of 1970, 71, 80, 91, and 95 to stay on this Zoom call. And you will be placed in a breakout room with your class for the class Raise a Glass. Enjoy!